Deep inside the Morg family's Hall of Darkness, there is a place that isn't monitored by the Empire or visible to the Morg family. A space that only the members of the Hall of Darkness know about. An underground space that spans over 600 floors. Damn, that's a lot of stairs. Just in time, we turn over to the dark support area, conveniently located at floor 666. On that floor, we see Camus practicing her dark magic by summoning a type of monster in front of Snake. She turns to him, asking the man about what he thought of her summon. He was incredibly surprised to see that the young lady was able to create undead soldiers now. Thinking about this, he could see that she was able to achieve this much when it hasn't been that long since she converted to black sorcery, remembering that Camus was originally a fire magic mage. Seeing all this happening in front of his eyes, Snake was having mixed feelings. A combination of pride, jealousy, fear, affection and sadness. Something we all experience. Deep down inside, he thinks about what it was he was searching for in Camus' face, which resembles her mother's. Why did he allow this child to enter the Hall of Darkness? But before he could think even further, Snake snaps back into reality as Camus tells him that she still found her skills lacking. She looks at her hands, upset that she still couldn't completely revive a corpse with her current abilities. Knowing that she was planning to do a complete revival, Snake reminds her that it was not just difficult to learn, but the success rate was also extremely low. Let's say she does revive the love of her life by some miracle. When that happens, there was a possibility that he will either go berserk or become corrupt afterward. To Camus, she didn't need to worry about what happens after she's successful with the spell. She believes that the soul of the person she wants to revive is stronger than anyone else's. We return to the main house where Adolphe was screaming at his sister, shouting that they should have stopped Camus from leaving the Hall of Light and instead enter the Hall of Darkness. Looking at the window, Respinae tells him that she has yet to make her decision. She has told her own daughter to choose carefully and gave her the authority to freely enter both halls as she pleases. Adolphe was still full of concern, revealing that Camus has been spending more and more time with the leader called Snake. Hearing that, Respinae assures him that Snake was not the type to harm her, and in fact, was the best one to help. Even after hearing that, Adolphe still wanted to reject the idea of Camus joining the dark side, but Respinae, with a stern voice, tells him to stop talking and worrying about this matter. Back at the Hall of Darkness, Snake and Camus were moving somewhere else. As they walked together through the corridors, Snake asks if she knew about the origins of the Morg family, which she didn't. Using the lantern in his hand, Snake brings it up, lighting the room they were in and revealing to Camus that this place was the very beginning of the Morg family, which started at a morgue. He tells her that the title Morg comes from a very old bloodline that existed before human clans and empires were established. The Morg family mostly took in unidentified corpses and found their relatives. It may be because they spent a lot of time with the dead, but after a certain point in time, members of the Morg family were able to converse with the dead. To this day, there are still members who can. Just like her, Camus Morg. Hearing about the story, she concluded that the Morg family had used black sorcery from the very beginning. Snake continues on, guiding Camus through the morgue. He tells her that black sorcerers who sort out knowledge know that the truth lies beyond death's door. With that, Camus decides that she should be familiar with death, but Snake corrects that thinking, telling her that doing so would be nothing more than imitating a black mage by doing that. He instructed that first, she needed to be wary of death. In a serious tone, he tells Camus to keep in mind that black mages are entities who keep death at an arm's length. Before she understands and familiarizes herself with death, Camus must first understand and familiarize herself with life. He reminds her that a true black mage loves living beings more than anyone else and pities those who are dying. They are the ones who have a deep understanding of death. Camus' view of black mages started to change. Unlike how the world views black mages, they were actually deemed as sages or elders. Hearing about all this, Camus started to question Snake on the reason why he had entered the Hall of Darkness. Thinking about the question, Snake started to imagine Respinae and Adolphe in a bright light. Thinking about them, he tells her that if there is light, there is shadow. If one of them disappears, then the balance is ruined. Several days later, at the same floor 666 called the Dark Support, Camus bursts into the room with excitement, calling out to Snake, who was standing in the middle of the floor, aura farming. She proudly shows off a magic circuit she had created on a piece of paper. Snake was alarmed to see such work and slowly reached out to it. Camus explains that it was a magic circle for a complete revival. This was the outcome of her research so far. Looking at her work closely, Snake could see the model has several steps more developed than the information he has. Even if he nitpicks several parts of it, it looks perfect. Black sorcery requires one to research the depths of the abyss. How deep did this child dig into the abyss for her to arrive at this conclusion, he wonders. Seeing how immersed he was in her work, Camus shyly asks Snake if he was willing to help her conduct the spell. Before he does, Snake questions her on whether she truly likes the boy called Vikir. She was different from him. She was completely different from him, actually, who's fascinated by black sorcery and whose heart is as dark as the abyss. The child before him hasn't been eroded by the abyss at all, and wears her heart on her sleeve. To answer his question, Camus happily answers with a loud yes. Knowing that she was a lot better than him, Snake agrees to help with the spell. Looking at the materials before them, Camus had actually received support from the Baskerville clan and collected a bit of his blood and strands of hair. She had also gathered all the dead spirits she could from the forest. Snake was impressed by this, seeing that if there was a piece of his physical body, then a fragment of his soul would react. If that happens, she could just sort through them. As they wrote the magic circle on the ground, Snake questions Camus about whether she knew of the ship of Theseus paradox. He was concerned that if it was really him, with just his body, memories and personality were back. To Camus, those things didn't matter right now. What's important for her was to succeed first. After some time, the two of them had completely drawn Camus' magic circle in the middle of the room with the materials at the center. Not wasting any time, Camus decided to start the spell right away, saying to Snake that she had waited too long. And so, with the help of her new master Snake, the two of them started to cast the complete revival spell in hopes of getting Vikir back into the land of the living. As they focused their powers, dark spirals of magic began to erupt from the magic circle, surrounding the room. Snake could see that the magic circle itself was flawless, believing that the world of black magic was finally having its first breakthrough. As time went by, a swirl of red aura started to gather at the center of the magic circle, forming the shape of a familiar figure we all know. Seeing the figure of the boy she loves, Camus loses her concentration, rushing towards the center of the magic circle to where he was. She reaches out to what she believes was Vikir. But as she approaches Vikir, the magic circle starts to go haywire, destroying the room they were in. As a result, Camus suffered from mana counterflow, causing her to spill blood from her mouth. Snake could only shout at her to grab Camus' attention. But all she heard was nothing but a blur. Suffering from a rebound caused by mana counterflow, Camus slowly watches everything she wanted fall apart, thinking that she had failed. As she opens her eyes, she sees a white door in front of her, alone in the new space. Camus starts to think that she had died too. All kinds of questions started to pop in her head. Why did the magic fail? She thought it was perfect. Is it because the piece of Vikir's body was too old? Or was his soul not even in the forest? Maybe he's already attained enlightenment and turned his back on this spiteful world. Then what meaning does her struggles hold now? The young lady wonders as she stares into the bright light. Tears started to pool in her eyes, as she started to think that it was better for her to just die. A hand appeared on her face. It was Snake. He crossed over, revealing to Camus that he didn't want to enter the Hall of Darkness. It was because he couldn't be with his sister, because he couldn't stay in the same light, only being able to live in the shadows. However, something came to his mind when he saw how Camus wore her heart on her sleeve. If only he was honest, if only he had the courage to challenge the impossible. Maybe things would have been different for him. Pushing her away, Snake tells her to never lose hope, and that he wishes for her to reunite with the one she loves. With that final push, Camus was swallowed into the waters, slowly watching Snake walk into the door of light instead of her. In a sad turn of events, we return to reality, where Snake laid in a bloodied mess while Camus was completely unharmed. She looked in horror, as the man known as Snake, her master, laid dead in a pool of blood, right in front of her own eyes. Quite some time has passed since Snake crossed over to the other side, his dead body laid on floor 666. Long enough for flies to wander around his corpse. Camus was lying right beside, not moving an inch, as the result of their failure was obvious due to the state of the room they were in. Eyes started to open with a hazy look in them as she wondered how much time had passed as her burnt body wouldn't move as she wanted. She wonders if this is the price one has to pay for using a forbidden spell to bring back the dead. No one will come here to where they were, to this hidden space deep within the Hall of Darkness. Camus felt that it might be better for her to die off like this. Her master, who died for her instead, will probably find her current state ridiculous. But she had already tried everything. Camus no longer has the will to live anymore. But if there is something that she finds unfortunate, it was that she couldn't meet him in the end. As she closed her eyes, believing that it was the last time, Camus thought to herself that she might see him once she dies. But a voice tells her that she looks like she wants to live, awakening the young lady. Camus started to wonder how she was hearing a voice here, thinking it was a hallucination. But the voice states clearly that it was real, that it had appeared because it had felt her intense feelings. Looking back at what she read in the books, Camus figures that the voice belongs to a demon. The voice admits that it was a demon. Seeing that she knew what it was, the voice decides to speed things up. In exchange for the demon saving her with its power, it suggests that they strike a deal together. But Camus responds that she doesn't want to live anymore, so instead, the demon asks her what she wants. Looking at the failed magic circle, the demon figured out that she wanted to resurrect someone. There was a dead person she wanted to see. Seeing the dead happens to be the demon's speciality. The voice reveals part of its form, a grotesque mouth with sharp fangs and blue aura surrounding it. The demon introduces herself as Sire, the demon of the dead and decay. She offers to help the young lady meet the person she wanted to resurrect, in exchange for a deal between them. Hearing the offer, and thinking about how Snake wanted her to reunite with the one she loves, Camus closes her eyes, thinking about her future decision. Since there was nothing else she could do, Camus agrees to the deal with Sire, since this was a method she has not yet tried, a deal with a demon. Her eyes regained their fire, as she knew she couldn't give up now. We turn to the Hall of Light, the main house of the Morg family, where the servants were shouting about the return of Camus. Adolphe rushed to see her, breathing heavily as everyone was stunned to witness what was going on. Camus has returned to the main household. Adolphe wanted to let her know how worried he was about her, even concerned about what happened to her hair and to explain what she has been doing these past 10 days. Believing that it was Snake who did it, Camus silently walked past everyone, her eyes looking down, only telling him that she was tired and sorry. "How sad," said Sire as she appears beside Camus, mocking her for ignoring her uncle that way, especially since it has been a long time since she's seen him. "Be quiet," commanded Camus to the demon, reminding her to prove her competence, or else she was going to break off their contract. And that was how her contract with Sire began. This is the contract written between the two. First, the elite corpse Sire will lend a portion of her power to Camus Morg, and assist her so she can meet Vikir van Baskerville. As payment, Camus Morg will hand over all control of her physical body for 1 day to Sire, and fall into a complete slumber. Additionally, Camus Morg is prohibited from divulging anything concerning Sire or demons to others. With the contract, Camus gained 2 powers from Sire: the ability to find anything she wants, and the ability to bring back the dead. These abilities were first proven when she finally found Rose, her younger cousin, who was killed by the barbarians. Soon enough, Camus decided to look for what she really wanted. But Sire was having a bit of a problem. Using her magic, the demon was surprised as it was a first for her too. She couldn't feel the soul of the man Camus had been looking for, Vikir van Baskerville. Even with that, Camus still wasn't going to give up. During the day, she used isolation training as an excuse to avoid the Morg family and looked after Rose, and when night came, she looked for Vikir. The more time had passed, the more she drifted apart from her mother, her uncle, and her family. But she didn't have much time to dwell on that. "I'm going to see Vikir," That was the only thing she could think about. As she was engrossed in her black magic research, she heard a faint noise from the back of the room. A stranger had appeared, making her ask who it was. Dantalion had made his appearance, warning the young lady that he wasn't here to see her, but the demon she was with. And so, he orders her to bring Sire out. After that day, Rose disappeared. Sire reveals to Camus that Dantalion was her comrade, the ninth corpse, who said he needed a slave. So she gave Rose to him, adding on that once he conceals his presence, it would be hard to locate the demon. Camus was furious over the demon's decision to hand over Rose to Dantalion. Hearing her complaints, Sire assures that she could always resurrect Rose if she dies again by fixing her body once more. The way she talked about Rose made Camus realize that Sire was truly a demon deep down her core. And so, the day Camus left to find Rose once again, a miracle happened. She met the night hound, who was the love of her life, Vikir van Baskerville. With that, we return to the present, with Camus on her knees, tears coming down after Vikir had finally found her. He takes a look at her through the hole he punched through the wall with, teasing the young lady that she looked a lot different from the last time he saw her. Camus was on the verge of blurting out all the things she wanted to ask him. Her mind was filled with all types of questions. Why are you saying things with such composure when it's been so long since they saw each other? Why didn't you come find her if he was alive? Did he know how hard it was for her? Does he know how much she struggled just so she could see her again? But all these questions were left unsaid, as Camus couldn't say them out loud. Walking closer to her, Vikir could see that she had made a deal with the demon. Even though she couldn't speak, Camus wanted him to see her as a cool woman in her final moments. Even without asking, she can feel that the depth of his eyes has never looked this deep before. Vikir had grown to become so handsome. Unlike her, who ruined everything and everyone she came across. Sensing that her time was coming to end soon, when that happened, she knew Vikir would have to fight Sire. So the last thing she could do for him was to not let him fight alone again. But since she was able to see him again, Camus calmly thanks Vikir for recognizing and finding her one last time. Just like when they were kids, she gives him a grade. 100 out of 100. With a sad smile on her face as spikes appear from the ground, pointed straight at her. As the spikes aim to end her life, Camus reminds Vikir to be happy for the both of them. In a stunning turn of events, our boy actually went ahead and gave the young lady a hug, using his own body as a shield to protect her from death. He calmly tells her that he could understand what she couldn't tell him because of the contract with the demon. He knew that she didn't land any critical hits when they fought, and that ending her life was her way of telling him that she couldn't talk about it. Sensing her presence fading away, Vikir leaves her with some final words. Don't worry about me and leave it to me. His eyes filled with a new sense of rage unlike never before. Assuring his childhood friend that he was never going to lose to a demon. And just like that, Camus disappears from the world while Sire took complete control over her body.
Thanks for watching the latest part from the voice of Manhwa. Subscribe for more content and don't forget to comment below what you want to see in the future. Like and share for more.